All or nothing. I wrote this song in one of the darkest seasons of my life, battling chronic illness at its worst. Many say that what doesn't break us makes us stronger, but I disagree. I think what breaks us actually makes us stronger. Sometimes it's not until we're fully broken that God can actually make us whole again. When you're making a cake, you don't start with a whole cake. You start with many pieces. And things like eggs have to be broken to form the mixture that then makes the cake. I think just in life, we have to learn to rely on God's strength and not our own. Oftentimes when we talk about being strong, we're trying to be strong in our own strength. But when we are broken, we actually learn to fly. We learn to really be strong because we're learning to rely on God's strength. For me, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness called fibromyalgia in 2013, and it's difficult because it's invisible to the eye. People don't see my suffering, and I like to explain it to people as I feel like I'm being buried in a coffin alive. I feel like my body's shutting down, but I'm still alive is the best way to explain it. At times, your body just doesn't function. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and people don't see that. And so at the time of writing this song, I'd truly come to the end of myself. I experienced my first breakdown. I'd been struggling with illness for a couple of years, and it reached its worst point where I wasn't sleeping, I was losing weight really fast, I was really just weak, exhausted, in a lot of pain, and I wasn't able to work, and I thought that I actually wouldn't be able to work again. And I reached a point where I actually couldn't create anymore. I just lost my job and I couldn't create anything. I'm a web designer, I couldn't design websites, I couldn't write. I just literally stopped being able to create anything whatsoever. As a creative person that has been creating my whole life, I was like, what do I do with myself? I literally can't create. And at times, all I could do was get up. Like if I got up that day, that was an achievement, and just be with God. And that's where I realized that, okay, who is Krystle when she's not designing? Who is Krystle when she's not singing or songwriting? I realized at the end of the day, all I have is Jesus. And that's all I actually want, is just to be consumed by him. And so all or nothing came from that place, where I realized Jesus is actually my all or nothing. Without him, I have absolutely nothing. And if everything else in life fails, there's nothing else to rely on. So I found myself in this position where I was absolutely broken, completely broken. And I actually felt like, how am I gonna come up from this? I actually don't know how to recover from this place. Will I be able to design again? Will I be able to write again? And in that place, I had to trust God. And I realized I actually don't need to fight. I don't need to fight anymore. It's just being in the arms of Jesus. And I realized in that point, the greatest prize I can have is not anything I create. It's actually just being at the feet of Jesus and knowing who I am in him. And so I came into this season of learning to just be, and realizing that everything I am is at his feet. And whatever happens, whether I design again, whether I sing again, that's completely in his hands. And I'm still breathing, so I'm meant to be here for a purpose. But just at the moment, I'm just in a body that's not cooperating. And so I just learnt to be. And out of that place came this song where I was feeling completely broken-hearted, broken in my body. I felt like my dreams were just out the window. I'm like, am I ever going to be able to become a wife and a mother? Am I ever going to record a full album? All these things that I dreamt to do. I was like, am I going to be able to do these things? And God's like, don't worry about that. Just be. So yeah, this song, All or Nothing, was birthed out of that place. And that's where I've come to understand that it's not about not being broken. It's about being broken by the Lord, who breaks us gracefully, not to harm us, but to create us into something beautiful. One thing I learnt through having chronic illness that's very important to me is learning to stop and be more aware of the presence of God. One thing with having chronic illness is that sometimes you're very, very fatigued, or whether you like it or not, your body just stops. And it caused me to slow down and to stop running at the pace that the world tells me to run. It tells me to slow down and actually hear the rhythm of God's heartbeat. And to me, that was important because I realized how much I actually wasn't stopping for the presence of God in life. So that is something that is just so important to me, that God is just so worth stopping for. And to be able to take that time to soak in the ocean of His love was very important. And that's really, there's a part of this song that really captures that, I guess, idea of just drowning in the ocean of His love. Actually, a little bit of something that I find interesting about this song, I actually entered it into a songwriting competition and got some feedback from the judges. And the judge that was reading through it came back with feedback. She said, your song is a little bit conflicting. In one way, it's like a worship song, but then it's confusing because it sounds like it's a love song. So in future, maybe, refine your song lyrics to be one or the other. And it caused me to stop and think. I was like, when did we stop singing love songs to Jesus? Like, in one way, I felt excited because I achieved the message that I was trying to express, because it's actually a love song to Jesus. But also it grieved my heart that we forgot how to sing love songs to Him. And the whole idea of this song was just falling in love again. So very much part of this song is going to a deep, intimate place and finding that intimacy again. Another thing, though, that I have learnt through battling chronic illness is not to make peace with disappointment, which is hard to do. At some points, I obviously felt very disappointed because I couldn't always achieve what I hoped to achieve by this point in my life, or I couldn't run as hard as I would like to, or there was a lot more that I wanted to fit into my time that I just couldn't achieve. The point is that, God has His own time. It's not about our timeline. And for me, I, for a while, made peace with disappointment. I'm like, you know what, this isn't going to happen. I'm not going to be able to have this in my life, or I'm not going to be able to achieve all that I wanted to achieve. One thing about battling something that's quite fatiguing is that you feel like you can't be at 100% all the time. You feel like you're not fulfilling your 100% potential, or you're not reaching your full capacity. And that can be quite disheartening, because I feel like there's a lot in me that I can't always put out there. So I reached a point where I was like, you know what, this isn't going to happen. I stopped believing for myself. And as a result, a lot of that creativity stopped. And one thing I've come to realize is no matter what the situation, God promises, and I have this scripture, I actually have it on my phone to remind me. He says in Psalm 138:8, you keep every promise you've ever made to me, since your love for me is constant and endless. I ask you, Lord, to finish every good thing you've begun in me. At the end of the day, no matter what sickness we battle, no matter what the situation, if God has got us breathing, and if we've woken up, His promises that He has started in our lives, He will absolutely fulfill them. There's nothing that can hinder his promises over our lives. And so if there's anything I can say that I learned the most, do not make peace with disappointment. Do not agree with it. It's a lie. You can always agree with God's promises for your life, no matter what you're battling. And that's probably my greatest takeaway from battling illness. I do believe that God's going to heal me one day, but until that time comes, I know that his promises for me are going to be fulfilled, and that I don't need to be disappointed with my current situation, because in all things, God gives me joy, he strengthens me, and he carries me through.
Is you.